Hello everyone, welcome to the ListenABLE Podcast, a podcast normalising disability through the lens of two mates who started a podcast. Two blokes walked into a podcast studio 4 years ago. In that time, done 180 something plus episodes, 150 guests, and today's absolute ripper.
Actually, before we get to our guests, it's good of you to be able to join us today. How is the match going?
Interesting. Dylan is making a visual cue to my outfit today, which
Day
is
four?
a white shirt with a yellow vest. Are you referencing like a Wimbledon-style tennis outfit?
Day 4 of some kind of test match is what I'm going with.
Oh, it is very cricket. It is very cricket.
Are you batting or bowling?
Well, with my partner, Emily, very much batting above my average. Thank you very much, Dylan.
You look good, by the way.
Thank you, mate.
I like it.
Why,
Very
to be
cream.
fair, I'm very jealous of your hat. If you want a fashion piece back at you, a Nike corduroy.
Corduroy. I can get you one of these.
Yeah,
I
can
know
you
the
please?
people at Nike.
Oh, yes.
Big supporters of me and the podcast. In all seriousness, so it's like a white and cream number. You look sharp.
Well, thank you so much. I'm actually going to just take off the vest for the next episode and pretend that it never existed.
No, don't do it.
All right, let's let our next guest who is sitting next to us in studio introduce themselves.
G'day, my name is John Mckenna, and it's really cool to be here. And I'll just stop there unless you want more details about John
What
McKenna.
do you
know
want
everything about you, John.
What the hell?
Everything.
Mate, you're a podcast. You can't just say I'm John and then not
Mate,
say it.
I'm shy.
Give us some gear, Johnny. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, gear number 1, never call me Johnny.
Okay, John. Oh, I
hate
like
that.
that.
Oh, there you go.
Never, ever call me. I've got one godfather can call me Johnny. He's allowed to. No one else can.
Am I a close second?
No way.
Okay, cool. Just checking.
You wish. Podcasting. Yeah, I did it probably before it became popular.
Ooh.
Podcast called So Podcast, and it was fun. It was done from my studio garage. It was really diverse, not just disability. I was just in a stage of my life where I was doing a lot of whole cool stuff, and I'd meet people and say, come on the podcast. They never hesitated. They came on board. So it was around diversity, empowerment, women's rights, multiculturalism, a little bit of segue into gadgets, because I used to do a TV show on Channel 31 called No Limits, back with the famous Stella Young.
That's it. I remember that show.
Yep.
Not to age you, but I remember watching it when I was, young teenager.
That's right.
Great show.
Yeah. And I had a segment there called Macca's Gadget. And I just really got excited about finding something that would make life easier for a range of disabilities.
Can I ask, we're talking like 20 years ago-ish, 15 years ago, this show?
Yeah.
What was one of the first gadgets that you remember that really revolutionized your life? Because these days, access because of increase in technology is immense, and it's just left, right, and centre everywhere we look. There's things to improve the quality of our life. But can you remember something back in the day? You're like, oh, that's big at the time.
Well, yeah, but guess what? It's not high tech, but it was really, really cool. And I'm going to describe the picture. Basically, it was a wooden framework that was designed for partners who liked sex, but they had trouble with lower back issues. So if you can imagine, this wooden frame would sit above the person who was lying on their back, and then the other person was able to lean their chest onto that and perform the act of making love.
Nice.
So it was a true story.
Is that like the Intimate Rider, or is that before do you know the Intimate Rider?
I don't, mate, but thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intimate Rider is like a little seat you sit on when you're a paraplegic or quadriplegic,
Yeah.
and you kind of move your hips a bit, and then it kind
Similar
of
to
thrusts.
that, yeah. But we had, like I said, it was all done at the RMIT University Channel 31 studio, and I've got great visions. And actually, my brother-in-law was the co-host of that stage, but I found the product, so I'd go and find the product and feature it.
Cool, man.
But did lots of stuff. Robotic spoons would help people get fed on a robotic arm. Some great stuff.
John, you've rolled into the studio today in an electric chair. If you don't mind sharing with our audience, of course, a disability-focused audience, what is your lived experience?
Sure. Well, I have a disability, big one, Arthrogryposis Multiplex Congenita.
Break that down for us.
Surgery, blood, pain, tears, alcohol, drugs, but I'm here now and I love life.
Good on you, mate.
How does that do it?
That's good.
And a lot of corrective surgery too. So I'm really lucky and blessed to have some really cool family behind me. So there was lots of surgery because when I was born, really, really twisted. So a quick plug for if anyone wants to try and find the podcast, it's still out there. I did a lovely gig with my parents and it was called Little Bird Who'd Fallen Out of the Nest. And that was a really beautiful conversation with my parents about what it was like to have a kid with a disability and through that journey around corrective surgery and what nurses would say to mum and dad, say, oh, there's a home he can go. So this is back in 1962 when all that stuff was going on. And my mum said really quickly, he has a home. We're going to put him in the car and take him to our home.
A very complex story as well with your parents as well, doing some research on you, and something really looking forward to, just kind of teasing our audience that's going to come up in the next 10, 15 minutes, which is around the conversation around your parents and disability. Just going back to your disability and that tech space, can you talk about what the first electric chair that you had was and the comparable of looking into the future? If you were to upgrade your chair today, what sort of features are you looking for in that period of 50 years?
Well, also, just I used to say electric chair as well. Electric wheelchair. The electric chair is in Green Mile.
That's a good point.
And that is
electric
where,
wheelchair.
when you do something really bad in America, you get the electric chair.
Great point.
So we'll go with electric wheelchair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I think that most of the things I'll never forget about, there was car batteries under your bum. All right? So there were full-size car batteries, yeah.
Whoa.
And they were required to have topped up with distilled water. And if you cook your batteries too much, you'd get egg, fart, gas. Batteries, they brew. So, and they didn't last very long either. So I had to really plan my day to sort of, today I want to go and visit my friend. I can only go to the milk bar once. So it was really all about the charging of that chair.
Man, that's a great question, Angus. I've never thought about that, right? Because even like I think about my lived experience, which is manual wheelchairs, and I make the joke that the wheels used to be square kind of vibe, like they were pretty cooked, but it goes to another level with the electric wheelchair. What kind of year did they? I mean, I imagine that would have been heavy as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So what year did they gradually start to get a bit better, which would increase your independence from one milk bar trip to say half a day of the house?
Well, honestly, they haven't got better. It probably sounds weird because you've still got batteries and it's still heavy, and wheelchairs are heavy.
Yeah.
So where they've got better is electronics. You can do a lot more adjustments for people with seating requirements.
Yeah.
Tilt back, pressure sores,
Stand up
things
and
like
stuff,
that.
or not stand up, but like go up and
exactly,
down.
up and down. Yep. So that part's good. But the basic electric wheelchair still consists of some good motors, the batteries, and the control box. But developments, of course, where mobile phones are getting involved, where you could drive a wheelchair with your iPhone.
Does that interest you if you were to look for an upgrade? What is out there as a person who's interested in gadgets?
No, it's more about different people have different requirements.
Yeah.
People who physically can't use a joystick and want to be able to communicate, or otherwise use their joystick to run their phone. So it's really cool to see interacting with wheelchairs interacting with your phones. Yeah. Different sorts of security also, which make things safe.
Some cool stories with blow suck as well as an option, and then also the head movement as well, controlling where. I just thought, as someone who was interested in gadgets, I was like, maybe what's the future out there? You see all these trade shows for cars coming out and EV models. I just wonder if the same exists for electric wheelchairs.
I've got a true story to tell you. I was working for a company called Sibbings many years ago, and they built the first electric wheelchair. And they said, John, we need you to test run this wheelchair. And how it operated was my head would lean forward and break a beam, which would make the chair go forward. So that sounds good. Until the boss said, actually, don't go out in the sunlight because the chair won't stop. So it's really good for people that want to drive wheelchairs by the head. Back in those days, there were pressure buttons and beams to help you control it.
Wow.
Now, we've known each other for a while. You've got a great vibe about you. I've always thought that. What about young John? Talk us through the kind of early years when, you got through the hospital part of it, obviously, which was pretty tough. What was it like growing up in the 60s, 70s as a young person with, a disability on the severe end of the scale?
Yeah, there was a lot of poking, prodding from doctors saying, what is this? I haven't seen it. What are we going to do? So, and I've still got quite a bit of trauma there. I've got an X-ray of me, a picture of me lying in a black satin sheet. I was only 7, but I was naked, and the doctors love to see the scoliosis. You got scoliosis, haven't you?
I do, yeah.
Well done.
I thought I had severe scoliosis, but we're pretty much, we both sit the same way. See, we're both leaning this way. I know.
That's right.
When I played sport, I'm playing defense, everyone's like, you got to turn the other way. I said, mate, fucking can't. It's bloody hard. Because all my weight's going one way. Exactly right.
No, scoliosis is a
Like
terrible
Zoolander,
thing.
I call myself,
Yeah.
And because I was hot. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people, because my disability is quite rare, I was a really talking point for student nurses, student doctors who came along to just want to find out, what do we do? Can we try this? But thank God for my great parents who said, yeah, we'll do this, we'll bend this arm because, like I said, you were born in a certain shape, and they had to do some repaddling, retwisting, so I could do things like hold a drink, give a hug and stuff like that.
I've got a ball of uncomfortable question around your parents, but while we are on the topic, and I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, I would like to talk about just one piece of research that we picked up, Amelia and the team as well, which was that your parents put you in brackets, an institution. When they went on holiday, you didn't go with them because of, I guess, the travel requirements, or what was that reason? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I'm not devastated about it. I've got a beautiful, loving family of 5 siblings, mum and dad. And, there were times back in those days where they wanted to go away in a family and go on the beach and do stuff that people in a wheelchair couldn't do. So I do get this question, say, Johnny, am I really devastated about it? And know what? I'll raise it at Christmas parties just to piss them off and have a bit of a joke. John's going to the hostel. But overall, was there love and support for me always? Yes. I'm a great one to believe that you do have disability burnout, and parents can burn out too. I've done a lot of work in the area of children with disabilities, and parents do bust up when a kid's born with a disability. So I've managed it, and it wasn't traumatic for me. Respite's really different now these days because you can go on a camp. But back in those days, what really was devastating for me is the places I would go is have your shower at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, in your pajamas at 5, in bed by 6:30. That was the real old school institution sort of stuff.
And pre-support worker days and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I used to go on like a respite camp with a bunch of other kids with disabilities, probably early 90s.
Yeah.
Kind of beautiful answer. However, how'd you feel in there? It would have been brutal.
Oh, it wasn't me because I was used to a family home. So to be sitting at the table and people chucking vitamins in your wheat bix, and you want a cup of tea, it had to be milk and sugar. There was no choice gone at all. It was purely about in institution days where this is how we do things. We've got to do 20 showers tonight, and you just line up.
Who else was in there with you?
Kids I went to school with. So I did go to a spastic centre when I was younger.
Yeah.
At a place called Marathon
I
in
just
Toorak.
cannot believe that's what it used to be called, by the way.
Marathon?
No, the Spastic Centre.
Yeah.
Worst name ever.
Oh, we've only just got rid of the Crippled Children's Association, don't
I know,
forget.
mate, I know.
Let's not go there.
I used to get the spastic bus
Right.
to like kinder.
Like affectionately called
What
that
was it
by the
called?
driver, yeah.
Yeah, it was blue. And I was like, I think I said to my mum, I'm not going on that fucking bus. And then I was like, I don't want to be called that, you know? And that was still mid-90s, probably end of 2000. I mean, look, still calling it the Crippled Kids?
Crippled Children's Association. It's gone now, but there's really a whole lot about
but
it.
not that
Things
long
got
ago.
better.
Anyway,
But, let's praise organisations like
Oh,
Scope.
they did a great job. Yeah, it's just
Let's
a name.
Scope and our Scope.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were Spastic Society. People are getting it.
What I kind of, when I was thinking about your position in that idea of, it's the contrast for me, and I just wanted, and I'm not taking away that you have a beautiful family and support. I'm just kind of trying to get into the head of where you might have been, not knowing, is that idea that your brothers and sisters and your siblings and your mum and dad are off on the Gold Coast going to Wet and Wild, obviously not that.
Yep.
And you're in a place where they're putting vitamins in your wheat bix and you're having sugar in your tea. So this contrast of like knowing where your family are and what they're doing versus you going to a place that you really despise.
Yeah.
That must have been just really tough, no?
It was tough, yeah, because I did get a card to say this is where we are. I didn't need the card with the photos. Though I could look back and I could let it worry me, but at the end of the day, it did hurt, and it wasn't even really a choice where I would go. It was just there, and I ran away a couple of times too. And I went back to the teacher and I said, "Listen, I ran away," and then all she did was correct the note. My spelling wasn't right. So, hilarious.
Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me pry a little further there. I just,
No, that's fine.
And I'm not taking that away from you. And I think it's brilliant that you're on this side of it,
Yeah, and respite does happen and will continue to happen with all aspects of people, disability or not.
And now when you were 18, you wanted that autonomy as any young person kind of wants, and you decided to move out of home. What were kind of the options available back when you were a sexy 18-year-old?
I made it really important for me it'll be my choice when I leave home. Mum and Dad didn't push me out at all. I was the last one, so I started to explore what's out there. Don't forget, this is before NDIS.
Yeah.
No funding at all. So let's find a really cool place I could go. And there's a place in Armidale. It was actually owned by Urella called Fleet Court. And that was the coolest institution in Melbourne because there was lots of carers and you could come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and you'd be put to bed. So it was one of those. The only unfortunate part of it was a lot of the people living there already had that institutional way of life. So they were looking for bedtime at 5 o'clock. So although I was loving it, and it was nice and close to the Armadale Hotel and different places.
Great pub.
Yep. Carried upstairs to see men at work.
Nice.
That was those days. But, so that was my choice to make sure that I'm going to go where I can. Mum and Dad said, fine.
What's the demographic of the people in there with you? Young, old? Who is it?
Probably older.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like 80-year-olds or like?
Oh, no, sort of, just about 20 years older than I was. A few youngies. Yes, a few young people like myself. But it's because it was just more about the background. I'd come from a family home. They've just come from another institution to try a better one with more freedom. So it was great. It was a small stepping stone towards how do we make more things, choice and control around food, timing, when you have your shower, who you choose. You choose your roster. That part was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I think, this just from the lessons that we've learned on the podcast, a little bit of history of people living with disability is those situations a lot of the time, if it's not somebody, a disability focused centre for care, a lot of the times it's young people being put into nursing homes. Did you have the experience when you were stepping out of having to go into a place where, to receive the care that you might need, you'd have to look into something like that, a facility?
Sure did. Moved from High Street, Armadale, Fleet Court, and fell in love with the old carer.
Nice.
All right, fall in love with the carer. And so we both left Armadale, moved to Bendigo. And guess what? That fell through. So there I was in Bendigo in a house we'd rented. I was running my own business called Independent Living Equipment. President of the Bendigo Lions Club, feeling pretty proud. And no one to put me to bed that night. She did a runner. So true story, and it's a lovely story when I look back. I've still got the people who are friends of me. I went across the road to the Teachers College to say, guys, I need someone to put me to bed tonight. So volunteers would help me to go to bed, and that was all cool. And running the shop, finally a social worker came in from the local Bendigo Home and Hospital for the Aged, and she said, John, really proud of what you're trying to achieve. You got volunteers getting you out, putting you to bed. That's not sustainable. So, and I'll never forget these words, guys. They said, don't forget, you got to surrender one fight so you can have another fight later. And I thought, yeah. Back in those days, proud 20-year-old, no, I will keep winning. But I thought, no. So the only option was to go and stay in this aged care nursing home, once again, before any funding. And I was there for 5 years. Did I like it? No way. All right? People were dying around me, smelled of urine. It was a nursing home. But I was the coolest thing for all the staff. I was young and randy.
A bowl of uncomfortable question. We'll get into the topic of sex and disability, so we look forward to getting into that.
No, I'm happily married 35 years. My wife said, you're not going to talk about sex again, are you? Oh, no, it's bloody Dylan's podcast.
Yeah,
See what happens.
Might come up.
That's tough though, man, to hear. And did all these kind of experiences want you to become an advocate for you and our community, or was that kind of always entrenched in your DNA? Is that's what you wanted to do?
I've never regarded myself as an advocate.
Neither have I, but like you are. So you're one of the advisors for the NDIS, which we'll talk about in a minute, and things like that. Like you do get out there and do get that social change done.
Kept being John, but then I thought, okay, my career would have loved to be an interpreter, but I don't like study, all right? So, and I would have liked to work in one of the old man shoe shops, but I couldn't climb a ladder. So it still goes back to, okay, what can I do? And things kept going towards bloody disability, Telstra, my own business, and medical sort of stuff. So I thought, all right, we'll do the disability thing. But what I did think to myself, okay, if I've got a bit of choice here, I'm not going to choose the physical disability side of stuff. People with intellectual disabilities, which I'm still doing today, very passionate about how those voices are not being heard. So if I could use my own toolbox of 62 years of living experiences of physical disability and tweak some of those skills to help people who are nonverbal, I'll do it and love doing it. It's a real privilege. Once again, I want to clarify, I don't talk on their behalf. I'm beside them. So I'm sure I've said to you before, Dylan, advocacy, for those people who want to use that word, it's great. But just be aware where you're standing or sitting when you're doing it.
Bloody oath,
Are you beside? Are you in front? Or behind the person?
Well said, mate. Yeah. And it's about amplifying the other voices, even having got a voice.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Which is what some of the beautiful work that you do.
Dylan did tease there the NDIS involvement. I believe you referred to it back when you started working on it as a startup. That's back in the days?
Back in Geelong, yeah. I was one of about 8 people.
That's sick.
who had living experiences, and they wanted to get recruiting correct, get it right, get the right people. And
one of 8 people with disability that was there. How many people were there total working on it?
now this is just doing the recruiting, the HR side.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So
I was going to say that's not many. I was like, hopefully more. Yeah.
and we were there doing all the interviews on a panel. It was great. But when I say it was a startup, they still didn't have the questions nailed properly. They were dancing around the disability word. And I was like, why is this? We need to know if these people get the D word. So I would say, and I'm going to put you both on a spot right now just to see if it's still got the amount of power. I'll start with you, Dylan. What's your definition of the word disability?
Oh, that's a good question, my man. Well, I'm a social model of disability guy, to be honest. So what makes me disabled is my environment. But in saying that, were you going to say that?
Yeah, that's my one.
But in saying that, it is something that affects me from accessing the world. However, that can be mitigated, obviously, if it's fixed. But I am very much of the school of what you were talking about before. Like I do keynotes and people call me the differently abled sportsman or some crap like that. You know what I mean? And it's just brutal. There are people that don't own it. And if a scheme like the NDIS at the start wasn't owning it, it's so good that people like you there to make sure that they did. What's your definition?
My definition of the word disability is a moment.
Yeah.
It's just a moment. It could be a permanent moment or temporary. And it's about what you're doing at the time or what someone else is doing. Simple.
Yeah. Which goes same vein around it's not medically really what's wrong with us, is it?
Angus.
Inevitable.
Oh, hey, that's a good one. Look at him.
Well, disability is the only thing that doesn't discriminate. Yeah. At the end of the day, my mum is starting to lose a little bit of function or trust in her body because of a fall recently where she broke her wrist. And so she started to slow down. I've got an uncle who's, got bad hearing, so you have to talk into his right ear. And all of those things, because they're not labelled as disabilities, are just because of the decline of their bodies. And at one point, they might need assistance in that. And so whether they do label themselves as having a disability in some way, shape or form, whether it be temporary or not, that's up to them, of course. But I think it's inevitable. As we get older, it doesn't, disability is the one thing that doesn't discriminate against sex, gender, ideologies.
Respectively, can I challenge that?
Please.
Hey, let's go.
25-year-old dies of cancer. His name is Michael. Has he experienced disability?
I mean, I would have to ask Michael.
Ooh. Let's go. This is good stuff. That's a good answer.
Yeah. I'm saying, when you say it's invariable, I would say not really, because things just go click, heart attack.
I know what you mean in the sense of if someone doesn't get hit by a bus when they're 21 and they're going pretty good and then die, they might not. But in general, I think also the big thing is, which we love sharing, is it affects everybody, even if it's not you directly. So like of the 5.5 million Aussies now, 21% population, 76% of them are touched by disability directly. And you might not even know it, you know what I mean? Like, you're touched by it because we're best mates, but in terms of your uncle, whatever it is, good, look at this, good chat we're getting into.
Okay, great question. Thanks for asking. I love when people put questions back on us. Yeah. I actually was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, I like this is good.
So the NDIS though, so as somebody who was there and in the inevitable stages back when it was at its first little home base in Geelong down the road from where we are today in Collingwood, how do you see the progression of it? I left radio and I still keep a very thin interest in the network because my friends are there. Are you the same? Are you watching through, rollouts of NDIS compliance and, Bill Shorten? Are you watching that with sort of interest going through, or have you kind of let it? I mean, you're still impacted by it because I'm sure you're on it.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I guess I've got a number of lenses I look through. All right. Because, yes, as a user, as a person who has a funding package from NDS, great. I also do a lot of work with Homes Victoria, with SDA, Special Disability Accommodation, and my role is to make sure that process is correct. When I say correct, when you've got Michael who's going to go into a group home, you've got 3 other people living in their group home, and we want to make sure it's a good win-win for everybody. But people forget to talk to Michael and the people in the house because you've got people like support coordinators who are not doing their job properly because they forgot to talk to Michael because they say, but Michael was non-verbal.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I say, poor Michael, he's got a bit going on.
Michael's got
Michael's got cancer. He's no one's talking to him. He's in an electric wheelchair and he's getting sidelined.
You want to see his brother?
Hey, give us a call, Michael.
Yeah,
You're right,
right,
mate.
you're all right.
Give us a bell.
Reach out.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
I'm not sure if I answered the question, but just
no, it's good.
Yeah, as far as India.
What about holistically? Because I always go, what do you think about the NDIS?
Yeah.
What's your answer to that?
We see more people with disabilities in the world, in Australia. I like that.
We do.
And that affects things like employment, socially, all that stuff, because you have technology and support workers or whatever type of support you do need. So I'm really excited to see more people with disabilities. I got really lonely when I was younger. I was the only one out there. You know, it's like when you go to a nightclub, you're the only one in the nightclub.
Yeah.
Well, so there's so many factors where we're not seen. You know, COVID, of course.
What was that? Yeah, I remember.
Michael had.
Yeah. Michael.
He's got long go, Paul Michael.
Get on the Armour Force, Michael. You're having a tough time. Need some vitamins in your Weet-Bix.
But you were locked down in Victoria, of course. Nobody was seeing anybody. So that young kid that hadn't seen anyone in a wheelchair or anyone different, the screams and shouts out to me, "Mummy, why has that man got little funny hands?" They were new and fresh, and I didn't take it too bad because that poor kid has been locked up, hasn't been exposed to seeing people out and about. So I actually picked up on that as far as what impact it had.
I was going to say, obviously it's a fair political football, the old NDIS has been for a while, and we always hear about the negative things around it and not the positive things. But if you're watching from or listening from international, we just had an election in Australia. No one's talking about the NDIS because they
never
both
heard it once.
agreed to fund it.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's a good thing, isn't it?
I kept hearing Medicare. I was like, man, yes, give him. I want to hear more about Medicare because it was like everyone agrees to fund it. Yes, there are some dodgy people. I get it, but they're getting cut out. And it's hopefully people used to complain about Medicare, I'm sure, back when that was founded.
Sure.
And now it's so commonplace. Everyone needs it. It's great.
Yeah, it
is. That's where the dream for us for the NDIS gets to. But honestly, I was just watching like all these debates going.
I'd never noticed it.
Are we both just agreeing that we're going to fund it now? This is great.
It was lovely,
It was
wasn't
great, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, like it was so refreshing.
It's hard to watch it all the time come up.
Oh, like where the problem?
Yeah.
And it's like, hang on a second, like this is an investment from the Productivity Committee to increase the GDP of Australia, first and foremost. And obviously, we benefit by being in an access community, get support workers, whatever it is. So, yeah.
I'm going to link this to the Bowl of Uncomfortable, John.
Oh, mate, you're really teasing this Bowl of Uncomfortable.
Bowl of Uncomfortable. This is where we ask you a question, sometimes sent in by listeners, sometimes sent in by Dylan and myself. A question that maybe might be uncomfortable to you, but by answering it may make it a more comfortable topic for people to approach you to have a conversation around. This one we sort of alluded to. Mike comes into
I'll go first because you've built yours up like the best one.
It's ever been. Thank you.
It's ever been on this show. I'll go first. It's from Harry, who uses Meta/Facebook. Real person. You've long advocated for lived experience to lead policy and reform. Do you think too many decisions in the disability sector are still being made by people without disabilities?
Definitely yes. And I'll just by clarifying that, we hear words people with living experiences. I always look to see that more magnified in areas of governance, for instance. So for sure, I love it when a decision's made and followed up by saying, we've had some focus groups, or we've had some thoughts on this, or based on what we've seen, or what's happening around the world. That's why we've gone with it. So it's a big yes for sure.
What impact does it have when people with disability aren't involved?
Embarrassment. When things go wrong, it could cost money. Got to redo it again. And it just goes against human rights. Let's be honest. Human rights is all part of this, having some choice.
Good job, Braz. Great answer.
John, at 18 years old, you left home for the first time. How do you have sex when you and did you have sex while around your parents? That one comes in from Jerry.
Around my parents.
Well, like I guess, with your parents knowing. I guess what he's trying to say is.
Were they getting you ready for it? Is that what he's trying to say?
I don't know. No, I don't think it would be that. But you have to say to mum. Like,
what about having sex at the nursing home where I was?
Oh,
okay.
That
right? That's where you've got the things happening. Being a young guy and having sex in those days and living in an institution, whether it be an aged care facility or something with disability, you've got buzzers. You're lying back, you're doing some really amazing things and the carer comes to the front door. Can we help you? No, get out! Stuff like that.
When you're first with a partner, Would you use like, if just say in the NDIS world where there's support workers where you can get them easy, would you use a support worker to like get you ready and then have your partner come in, or does the person that you're going to be intimate with support you through it?
It depends on the person.
Great question, Dylan, by the way. I haven't never asked that. Go on.
It depends on the person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so it's not something I decide now. It just depends on how does it
And you just have an honest, vulnerable chat about it. Big lesson for any young person with disability, like don't be embarrassed with your partner, even if it's like for the first time and you really like them.
Yeah.
It's okay to have those chats and be on, because I like would never do that. It would be way worse when I got better at that. It was like, oh, this is how it works. Are you comfortable? If not, been a pleasure. See you later.
That's right.
But also like, whatever. Yeah.
For sure.
Good advice.
Leaning it back into that NDIS model, recently sex workers were taken off the NDIS. What do you think about that as just an open conversation around that idea that, I've been lucky enough to be in this podcast space and we host and produce other disability podcasts. I know. It's okay.
What?
But, I guess the point there is, I got to, hear from people who have never had the opportunity to have sex at the age of 30. And so they wanted to use and have used, NDIS funding to be able to facilitate that with professional sex workers. What do we feel about that conversation? Because I don't think that's one we've ever brought up on the podcast.
Does it come back to, is it therapy or is it fun? And there's a difference between those two words, all right?
What about a right?
A human right to have sex and to have a house and have food. There's a triangle that talks to different levels of a human's life.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Jeez, boy.
Where did that come from?
I don't get enough credit from you that I am a smart boy.
That is good.
Yeah. Well, unpack that question from that triangle. How does it work?
Yeah, the needs, there's like different levels.
That's right.
Basically needs and wants. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
It's like your first needs is like shelter, health, food,
And so you can unpack that more. Is there a price to each one of those levels?
Yeah. Do you reckon it should be on the NDIS or not?
Free sex.
Not free sex, but
Yeah. I want to keep going back to, is it therapy or fun? Does NDIS pay for fun? Well, not really. All right. If it's part of therapy, sex is part of your mental health. It's a grey. I'm giving you a very grey answer. It's not black and white.
Spoken like a true politician there. I said it again, John. Fuck, I just want to call you that.
Well, John Mckenna, thank you, Macca. Thank you very much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. We're going to have the link down to your podcast. I know one of your more recent guests was Grace Tame's partner.
That's right, Max.
Yeah, Max from January this year. So we'll put that into the show notes below so people can connect with you at johnmckenna.com.au as well. That'll be in the show notes.
John, shout out, mate, because I can run, as they say, because of people like you walked. In all seriousness, mate. So thanks for breaking down a lot of barriers for the next generation of people with disability that came after you, mate, because honestly, I couldn't imagine doing what you were doing back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and that really set up the scene. So people like Stella as well and myself can now do what we're doing, mate. So thank you.
Thanks for the acknowledgement.